Imagine a political marriage on the absolute brink of collapse. A huge, devastating scandal hits.
Hmm.
But instead of just an emotional implosion, the response is cold. It's calculated.
It's a strategy.
It's a full-scale strategic audit designed not just to survive, but to actually transform the crisis into a narrative asset.
A weapon, almost.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're analyzing the source material behind what we're calling the Hines Strategy.
Right. It's a method for overcoming, well, catastrophic public and private scandal.
And we're focusing on those explosive 2024 events involving actress Cheryl Hines, her husband Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and the journalist Olivia Nuzzi.
Our mission here is purely analytical. We're looking at the methodology.
Exactly. How did Hines take this moment of, peak humiliation and betrayal and turn it into a public story of strength, of loyalty?
A story she documents, of course, in her 2025 memoir, Unscripted. So this deep dive, it's not about the scandal itself. It's about the mechanics of survival.
Yeah, the architecture of it.
And what's so fascinating when you dig into the sources is the sheer calculation. She moves the problem from this subjective, debilitating feeling, this personal pain,
Right.
to an objective, solvable problem. She didn't just react. She architected a way forward.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to get the solution, you have to first understand the wound.
Yes.
And this wasn't just a quiet marital problem. This was a media firestorm right in the middle of a presidential campaign.
Oh, absolutely. The crisis kicks off in September 2024. The news breaks that Olivia Nuzzi, a 31-year-old journalist, has been placed on leave.
For an undisclosed personal relationship with the 70-year-old Kennedy.
Right. And Nuzzi, at first, she tries to contain it. She calls it a digital connection.
Yeah.
Admits to sending intimate photos, but crucially denies any physical involvement.
But that little box she tried to put it in,
Yeah.
it shattered immediately. The
Yeah.
sources show the real humiliation escalated so fast.
It did, and that was largely thanks to these explosive court filings from Nuzzi's ex-fiancé, Ryan Lizza. He alleges a toxic year-long affair, and the details were just lurid. He claimed Kennedy wanted to impregnate Nuzzi, that he wanted to possess and control her.
Which just created this chaotic, frankly ugly public narrative that cast this huge shadow over the whole campaign.
Yeah.
So in her memoir, Unscripted, Hines really pinpoints the core wound. And it's interesting, it wasn't just the betrayal itself.
No, it was more specific. She
Yeah.
talks about the sacrifice, the grueling schedule of the campaign.
And what she got in return was feeling distant, unsettled, and this is the key word, unimportant to him.
That admission is everything. She wrote, that feeling was the end of the line for me. The entire strategy hinges on that.
How so?
Well, to solve the problem of feeling unimportant, she needed action. She needed proof that the marital entity, the two of them, was the most important thing.
More important than the campaign.
Exactly. The resolution couldn't just be a feeling. It had to be visible, measurable.
And this is where we get to the core mechanic of the strategy,
Yeah.
the private campaign, as she calls it.
Right, which wasn't, passive emotional healing. It was a systematic four-stage operation outlined right there in the memoir.
It was like a business problem to be solved.
Absolutely. Phases 1 and 2 were all about stopping the external chaos. Hines was overseas, she flies back, and Kennedy immediately picked her up at the airport.
And the crucial action.
They stopped everything. For days, the campaign was put on hold. They prioritized the marriage. They locked ourselves in our room, creating what she calls a secure, private war room.
So step 1 is containment. You build a bunker, emotionally and physically. Then comes phase 3, what you called the forensic audit.
Yes, and the language is so clinical. They drilled down on the truth. They laid it all on the table.
Separating fact from rumor.
And they consciously moved past the symptom, the Nuzzi scandal, to diagnose the underlying disease. They analyzed, and I'm quoting here, how we had become disconnected and what had kept us together.
Just think about that. You're treating a marital crisis not like a heartbreak, but like a managerial problem to be solved with data, with rigorous analysis.
And that leads to phase 4, strategic reconciliation. The process itself was the proof.
The proof of what?
Of her centrality, of her restored control. The fact that he stopped everything to engage in this arduous audit proved her importance. She concludes that through it all, they tightened our ties that bind.
So the internal audit contains the private damage, rebuilds the foundation. But what happens when that war room door opens up to the public glare?
That's the next battle.
Coming up, we're going to analyze the 3 strategic pillars she used to control that external narrative.
It's a masterclass.
If you're finding this breakdown of crisis methodology useful, make sure you're subscribed. We've got a lot more analysis just like this ahead.
Okay, so The internal problem is solved, or at least managed. The task then shifts to controlling public perception.
The external campaign.
Yes. And this required a really disciplined three-part PR strategy. And you see her deploy it in basically every media appearance.
And what's pillar one?
Pillar one is delegitimization. You could summarize it as consider the source.
Class.
Her first defense was to attack the credibility of the accusers. She actively shifts the focus away from the specifics, the photos, the alleged affair, by framing the whole story as a toxic drama between Nuzzi and her ex, Lizza.
She has that blunt quote.
She does. I think you always have to consider the source, right? So that's where I start.
Okay, but delegitimizing the source is one thing. How did she walk that tightrope without looking like she was just dismissing the infidelity itself?
That's where pillar two comes in. It's contextual dilution. And this is, I think, the most politically savvy part of the whole thing.
Dilution, meaning what?
Instead of debating the facts about Nuzzi, she dilutes the specific scandal by lumping it in with just generic political chaos.
So you reframe a unique personal crisis as just another occupational hazard?
Precisely. She calls it just another negative story in an exhausting year and a half of headlines and rumors. So by classifying the betrayal as just noise from the campaign, it stops being a singular crisis of their marriage, and it becomes just part of the landscape they weathered together. It lets her move on without ever having to publicly defend the specifics.
That's smart. And the final piece, pillar three.
Pillar three, boundary setting, asserting absolute closure.
Okay.
Her final public word on it was, and then it ends with a conversation with Bobby. That is an incredibly powerful statement.
Because it says what? It's over. We handled it.
It says the private, exhaustive review is complete. The marriage is now a secure, self-contained unit, and it tells the media, explicitly, you are not entitled to any more information. The case is closed.
And the capstone to this whole strategy is, of course, the memoir, Unscripted. The timing here is just critical.
Absolutely critical. The book comes out in November 2025. And this is after Kennedy has been confirmed as Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Which proves the stability of the marriage before she publishes the official story of the resolution.
Exactly. The book transforms the timeline from one of humiliation into one of strength, claiming the crisis actually strengthened their marriage.
And there's that one masterstroke anecdote in the book that just seals the entire narrative.
Oh, yeah. The moment where Kennedy suggests they pretend to be separated.
Right, to protect her from the public backlash because some people were so upset she was with him.
Oh, what does she do? She declines. She calls it a sweet notion, but insists they needed to get closer together.
And with that one story, Kennedy is recast. He's not the betrayer, he's the noble protector.
And she is solidified as the fiercely loyal, strong partner who chose unity over optics. It perfectly prepares their public image for their new life as a DC power couple.
So the overcoming was complete in her mind and in her published story. But was it complete in the public's mind?
Well, that's where you see the limits of the strategy.
Her appearance on The View?
Her tense appearance on The View, yes. While promoting the book, it illustrates the boundary perfectly. The hosts, they basically ignore the memoir's content.
All the stuff about the audit, the resolution.
All of it. Instead, they press her on RFK Jr.'s political stances, the Trump endorsement, vaccine misinformation.
And Hines later complained, that they didn't ask her a single question about the book.
Yeah. She authored Unscripted. She expected the world to follow her script.
But the world refused. They wanted to relitigate the very chaos she had tried to dilute with Pillar 2.
So the key takeaway for you, the listener, is that Hines absolutely survived by taking authorial control. She contained the private damage with that systematic reckoning.
The war room.
And she neutralized the public pain by supplanting the media's narrative with her own published truth. She achieved a resolution and then tried to impose it publicly.
Which really raises an important question, doesn't it? When you're facing that kind of total media chaos, is the most successful survival strategy to truly resolve the conflict?
Or is it simply to publish a definitive, impenetrable narrative about the resolution? Which one of those things actually holds more political power in the end?
It's a fascinating question.
And we really encourage you to look for these tactics out in the world. The systematic review, the 3 pillars of defense. Once you see the strategy, you really can't unsee it.
We hope this deep dive into strategic narrative control has given you something interesting to think about. Thanks for tuning into this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.